I will admit, I am an avid true crime fan on top of loving mysteries and thrillers in general. The horror/thriller genre is absolutely my favorite. When thinking about my first pick for an essential art house film, I knew that I wanted to do something within that genre. There are a lot of noteworthy films in this genre that I would regard as my favorite, but when I had to think about one film in particular that stands apart from the rest, I knew what it had to be: Fritz Lang's M. Austrian-born, Lang began making films in Germany during the 1920s. Although he has many well-regarded films, M might be one of his most well-known. M is a film about catching a serial child murderer. The police are looking for the killer, and after failing to catch him, a group of criminals decides that they must also join the search because the killer is making everyday criminals look bad. They aren't all murderers after all. The police are always on high alert, and the citizens themselves are extremely on edge. Anytime a child and an adult interact, the townspeople are quick to assume the adult is the murderer and go after him. The paranoia aspect of the film works so well. Decades after the film came out, we saw things such as the Satanic Panic and the rise of many infamous serial killers. Even before M, there was the Salem witch trials and the Red Scare. M works so well in that it is able to perfectly capture what happens to a society when something such as terrifying child murders happen and the case can't be solved immediately. It allows the film to truly feel authentic. It is also Lang's very first picture with sound, and once you've seen it, you will understand just how important sound is to this movie. When talking about M, most people will immediately bring up the whistling done by Peter Lorre's character. The murderer whistles a tune while he is on the hunt for his next victim, or while he's writing a letter to the police. The iconic tune is called In the Hall of the Mountain King, composed by Edvard Greig. It is used in many films after M, including in The Social Network, with a cover composed by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. The song's slow crescendo makes for a mood-setting, creepy rendition, whistled in actuality by Fritz Lang himself, as Peter Lorre could not whistle. The use of whistling is one of the first instances in film to tie a sound motif with a character. The whistling becomes synonymous with the murderer and actually ends up being what dooms him to be caught. But even with sound, Lang knows perfectly how to use silence to his advantage. There are still many long moments of silence, building tension, leaving the viewer waiting for some sound or action. Many of the technical aspects of this film are very impressive for the time, and part of why this movie stands so strong today. The cinematography of the film is well done, and Lang employs techniques that are now classic to the mystery genre. The use of shadows becomes extremely important in building the character of the murderer, often without seeing his face or any distinguishing features. The framing of each shot and the way that the camera moves all lend itself to creating suspense and keeping the sense of mystery. There are many slow-moving pans and tracking shots, which only builds the suspense further. The editing of the film is also creative, with a particular scene coming to mind when the police are talking about how they're going to catch the murderer, intercut with the criminals discussing the same problem. The intercutting really allows you to think about the way the criminals view morality and how they have a weird sense of civic duty all of a sudden.
Verärfung der Passkontrolle, Durchsieben der ganzen Stadt, Razzien. Immer neue, immer schärfere Razzien.
What really makes this film to me, though, is Peter Lorre's performance. His monologue again touches on morality, asking for forgiveness for what he's done because he can't help it. It's also a moment in the film that gives you pause as to the validity and success of the justice system, including the morality of the death penalty. I think that speaks for itself in how amazing Lorre's performance is. What's interesting is that Lorre was known only for comedic films before, and this was his big break into drama. But he really nailed this performance, and it remains iconic to this day. After almost 100 years, this film still remains in the conversation of some of the best films of all time. The performance, the technical filmmaking, the sound, all of it ahead of its time, and makes this film so impressive considering it came out in 1931. On top of that, at this moment in time, True crime and thrillers are two of the most popular genres, and I think we owe a lot to M for paving the way for some of our favorite movies today. That's why I think M is a very well-deserved, essential art house film.